Today's video is going to be a review of perimeter and area before we get into volume. We discussed in class that perimeter meant to add up all the sides. It doesn't matter what the figure is. The figure could be a square, the figure could be a rectangle, it could be a shape like a pentagon. It doesn't even have to look like a particular shape to us. As long as it's a polygon, it's a closed figure with all the sides being straight lines, then we can find perimeter of that figure. When we're doing perimeter, we are measuring just one dimension. It's like if I took a pair of scissors and I cut the figure with the scissors right there, and then I take these sides and just lay them down into a straight line. Then I am measuring the perimeter of the figure, which is a one-dimensional line. So it's just like I take those lines right there and just spread them out to where it's just one straight line. It's just one dimensional. We're actually just doing one dimension, which is length of something. When we measure the perimeter of something, we are measuring in units just like with anything else. We can use metric units or we can use customary. So in the metric, we'd see stuff like centimeters, meters, kilometers, or kilometers, however you say it. Customary is where we would see like inches and feet and yards, that kind of stuff. So, and if we look back at that figure that I just showed you, whatever the numbers are for the length for each side, I'm just going to take them and add them together. So when we were talking about perimeter, we do have some formulas. The perimeter, we said we could add up all the sides. So if we had we could do side plus side plus side plus side, whatever it is. Maybe it was a five-sided figure. We just add up the sides. That's traditionally what you're used to from fourth grade. Well, now in fifth grade, we talked about how there were two formulas. There was a formula for the square, and then there was a formula for the rectangle. For a square, perimeter is actually side times 4, and the reason being is because there's 4 sides on a square. So whatever that one side is, you just multiply it by 4 and you're going to get the perimeter because each side is equal. For a rectangle, the perimeter is 2 times the length, because there are 2 lengths, plus 2 times the width. And then you just add those together and you'll get the perimeter. You can see how all the sides are the same, and there's 4 of them. On my rectangle, 2 of my sides are my length and 2 of my sides are my width, and so that's why I say times 2. And once again, this is all still one-dimensional. It's as if I cut it and just lay it down in a straight line. That's why we use the yarn to measure the perimeter of things, because it was just a straight line when we stretched it out after we had wrapped it around the object. For area, we're now looking at 2 dimensions. We're going to be taking the length of the object and the width of the object. And that is what you did when you were at home and you picked an object to measure with the non-standard units. You measured its length and you measured its width so that we could actually get the area. And if you see within this little box that Mr. Wood actually came up with, area, so I'm just going to kind of color this in. This is the formula for area. It's embedded in this little figure, which I have given you, and you can cut out and put in your notes to help you remember. That the area is actually length times width. So it's pretty cool how he made this, that you can see area is no longer around the figure, it's actually the inside of the figure. That's why we call them area rugs, because they take up a certain area. You will take the length and you'll multiply it by the width. And now, because it's 2-dimensional, we're going to actually have to show that in a different way than we do with perimeter. So we're still going to be measuring in units, but these units are now going to be called squared units. The reason why we put the little 2 there is because it's 2-dimensional. The 2 dimensions we're using are the length and the width. So perimeter was just one dimensional, and when you don't put anything next to the unit, it's actually like there's an imaginary one there. So it was one dimensional and imaginary ones there. Two dimensional, we actually have to put the little two. So we're still going to measure in the same things. We're going to measure for metric, we're still going to measure in centimeters and meters and kilometers, but now we have to put a little two next to the unit name, not next to the number, but next to the unit name. If you put it next to the number, it's called something, it's called an exponent, which you're going to learn in 6th grade. You don't want to do that. It's totally different idea. So you have to remember to put it right after whatever unit you're using. So customary, we would see squared inches, we'd see square feet, we could see squared yards, square miles. But you've got to remember that little two because we are doing two dimensions. We're now doing length and width, not just cutting the figure the around the figure and laying in a straight line. We're now doing the length and the width using multiplication. So the formula, like we saw in that last slide, is area equals length times width. So let's actually do this one just using this figure right here. If we look at the length, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 units, right? It's 4 units long. The width is 1, 2, 3, so it's 3 units wide. Now my formula says area equals length times width, so I don't know my area yet. My length was 4 units, and I'm multiplying that by 3 units. So I'm multiplying my length times my width. So 4 times 3 is 12. So it's 12 squared units, because I'm not just talking about one dimension, I'm talking about two dimension. I don't put the little 2 by the 12, I put it after the unit name because I didn't know what these were. If these were inches, I could have put 12 squared inches. But these were just, when you don't know the actual name of the unit, you just call it unit. So this can get kind of confusing, especially when we're going to throw in volume next. But you just, if you can just remember, perimeter is around the figure, area is the inside. Perimeter, when in doubt, just add up all the sides. If you can practice using the formulas, that's great too. Area is always length times width, and it will be a two-dimensional figure, which is a flat figure that has length and it has width. And it's the inside of the figure, and we have to call it squared units. So whatever the name of the actual unit we're using, we'll call it squared units. Squared centimeters, squared meters, squared kilometers, squared miles, and so forth.